everyone, and welcome back to Mental Attire, the Meaning series. In today's episode, we're going to discuss Be the Remnant. I'm Cleopatra.
Yeah.
I'm Caitlin.
I am Amy.
So I guess we can start this off by sharing. There's a few verses, but there's a couple of verses from the Bible that kind of inspired us to talk about this and to encourage you to be the remnant in the first place. So I'll share one of them, and then we can kind of just talk about it from there. But as a starting point, in Isaiah 11:16, it says, "He will make a highway for the remnant of his people." And we have a piece of apparel that says, "Choose the highway." So it kind of blends the two of them together. But not only are we supposed to choose the highway, but we're supposed to be the remnant, the ones willing to follow where God is leading us, even if, like we've talked about in multiple of our previous videos that you can go back and watch, even if we don't understand why he's calling us to do something, when we're like, I don't think that I feel equipped for this, or when it feels very hard to do. We're called to choose and follow the highway, but we're also called to be the remnant.
Yeah, and I think the remnant in scripture even means, that faithful group preserved by God. It's seen throughout the Bible. You think about Noah, you think about Elijah, you think about Israel after their exile, you think about the early church even, just the remnant, those who, like, Jesus left behind after his ascension. And so we're kind of living in a world that sometimes wants to go the opposite direction. And I think being the remnant to me means standing for truth when the majority doesn't, and not following trends that oppose God's word.
Yeah, and something that I wrote down in my Bible with these verses, as I said, we are called to be the remnants, to be the embers that appear to be put out, but flicker even stronger with the light of God. We don't have to be popular or even loved by this world. We need to be loved by God, because his opinion is the one that truly matters. And so I think that kind of is a perspective, but also I hope it can be an encouragement, that it's not about being loved by this world. I think that God created this world, so inherently the creation that he created is good and beautiful. But because we've been given free will, and we discuss free will in another video, so I won't get into that. What happens in the world is not good. There's evil and stuff, and so I think it's a matter of we should not strive to be loved or liked by the worldly people, but by God, and then also the people that are also following him, because I feel like we're stronger together. We become a remnant together too. So I think that it's not about like being popular with anybody, so not even like the people who are following God or anything like that. But being a remnant is because when you take that step, someone else is going to have the courage to do that. And so I feel like it's a matter of that bravery that it takes, and the willingness to follow God even when you don't necessarily understand.
Isaiah 7:9. Unless your faith is firm, I cannot make you stand firm. And we were talking about that the other day, and the thing is, God cannot make us, and as Cleopatra mentioned, free will. We're not going to go into that. We discussed that at other times. But we still have to do our part. We have that choice, and it takes a lot of courage and confidence, conviction to be brave and bold. It doesn't mean we always have to be loud about it. We can be loud by still doing things quietly and behind the scenes even. But standing firm and realizing we've got to do our part.
Play a little bit off of what Mom said, that we have to do our part. Faith alone without action is, almost worthless. So we're partners with God, and also being a remnant being a group of true Christians and following God, we have to work in partnership with each other as well and with God, like a flock, I guess. So I think, it's kind of like, I don't know if this is a good metaphor for it, but how a mama bird protects her nest, her eggs, until, they grow up and they hatch and they can go out into the world themselves. But I think it's just sticking close together and making sure you can build, and yeah.
Well, and I think too, the cost of there is a cost of choosing to be a part of the remnant. Sometimes it's going to mean loneliness, rejection, or misunderstanding. Sometimes trusting God, it may make you feel like you're the only one, but knowing God has he preserves his people for himself. And so trusting God, even when you do feel like you're the only one, you've got to get that thought out of your head, because there are multiple people still who love and serve God. And I think surrounding yourself with those people is very, very important. Being the remnant, it's not just one person, it's a group of faithful people, faithful believers.
The company we keep, and in Isaiah 7:15b, choose what is right and reject what is wrong. And once again, that may mean we're not in the popular, we may be seen differently, we may be looked at differently, and that's where, like Isaiah was saying, we got to work together, stick together, join together. Kaylin, you were saying that too, each of you were. And this has always went on from the beginning. It's just in modern times, this went on back from the beginning. And being the remnant is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It can, hearing that, it's like, oh, but it's actually a good thing.
I think, it kind of, you can play off of a quote from C.S. Lewis: have fun even if it's not the same kind of fun everyone else is having. Not that not necessarily the fun part, but just, as a remnant, we have to walk down the road less traveled. And you may see a group of 100 people over here, but turn to the right, pun kind of intended, and, go for the smaller group, because that's where, it's not the majority. It's not the, what's popular, what's trendy.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's a matter of it won't be popular or trendy. I think it can collectively get stronger and stronger, so it, in the way of people would look at it and say that's popular, you know what I mean? But I think it's not. When you're trying to be the remnant, you're not trying to be popular. So even if it's more and more people are flocking to God, flocking to be godly together, it still doesn't make it popular. It makes it choosing the highway. It makes it choosing God, and you're actively seeking God, and that's what your focus is on, versus looking around and being like, oh, we're becoming popular, or this is a popular idea. It's not about that. And I think if we're truly trying to be the remnant, if we're truly seeking God, we will never want that will never be our focus. You know what I mean? Yes, you want to bring awareness to it. Yes, you want to encourage more people to be the remnant, to follow God, but it's not about popularity or numbers. It's about really wanting to honor God with the gifts that he gives each of us, and then wanting other people to do the same thing, because that's going to be beneficial for everyone, not just yourself.
When Isaiah 43 says, prepare ye the way of the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for our God. And that verse shows how, even if it may be lonely at times, how the wilderness may be lonely at times, God raises up faithful people, a faithful voice, a remnant to prepare the way for him. And so I think it's really, really important to remember, your mission. Yeah, it may, you may, the cost may be big, but the reward, the strength, the protection that he gives for those who do remain faithful outweighs any of that.
Well, and I love that C.S. Lewis quote. That's kind of like Funago and Families United. What we stand for is, and you can watch Turn Off the Noise. We just recorded this morning, as a matter of fact, that will be put up too. And it's a matter of not being the popular, but the definition of fun. We've got to be careful what we have our definition as. Because if it's high stimulation, constant stimulation, or an unhealthy stimulation, which is unhealthy habits, bad habits, addictions, vices, and all that kind of stuff, it's not going to lead us to feeling better about ourselves mentally, our mental attire movement, or physically, or even we're not going to feel better in the world. Or we're not, that's not going to help us in our whole mental attire movement is for mental health. And then our physical health, our relationship with God, our relationship with family, and what's going on with us mentally is going to come into our body and life. And all of our relationships, that's how it goes. It's the same for every human being. We cannot get around it as much as we want to try to budge. We can't change this. And God's truths, wisdom, laws, the natural, the laws that, we could go jump off a 5-story building. That gravity, we can't change it. Now, we can use a parachute, we can use other devices to help us and this and that, but we cannot change the reality about gravity. There are things that we can't, and God's put those in place for our protection. His wisdom is for our protection.
Yeah. I mean, I think that and you've heard this forever, and I'm sure they were hearing it thousands of years ago too, that following God or living a godly life, it's not fun. You can't do this, you can't do that, you're not allowed to do this. And really, it's not about that. It's about that you want to live. First of all, you're honoring God because our bodies are a temple. So living that way is we're honoring our bodies, which then in turn honors God. But it's also about you have a foundation, you have protection. You don't have that if you're not following God, if you're not living in accordance with His will, because you're always going to be searching for it. And a lot of people will say, no, that's not true. I'm good on my own. I can handle myself. I'm okay. But the truth is you are. And I think we're all searching for it, even with God. Sometimes when things happen, such as what happened yesterday, you're like, how is there, how, God, can you let this happen? Why did you let this happen? But at the same time, and we talked about this in another one of our videos, I can't remember the actual name of it. I think it's on our Choose the Highway channel or the Highway channel. Because we know God exists, we do know between good and evil, and we understand when something horrible like that happens, that's evil, that's not good, there's nothing good about it. And so, circle back to my point, it's that people think that following God is not going to be fun. You're going to be kind of stuck and you're not going to be able to do anything fun in life. But I think it's a matter of when you realize what living a godly life looks like, and when you actually immerse yourself in that life, it's way more fun than you can even imagine. And it doesn't mean that every moment is fun. It doesn't mean that you don't have hard things. It's none of that. But it's you have some kind of peace, even in times like this, because you know you can go to God and just ask for comfort. It doesn't make it easier necessarily, but it's you're not floundering because you have a foundation to return to, you have a foundation to rest upon. And so I feel like that's one of the main things for me is when people say it's not fun. Well, yeah, maybe sometimes it's not the fun that everyone else is having, like that C.S. Lewis quote. I'll agree with that. Of course it's not. It's not, you can't compare it. But you can compare it in the sense of it's better, it's more grounded, it's rooted in truth and faith, and it gives you so much more peace every single day of your life.
What you're talking about on Choose the Highway, our channel is free will or responsibility. That's the video.
Yes.
And we talk in depth about that, and I'll let Caitlin talk real quick. The big thing is purity and innocence, you know, and we actually talk about in our video from earlier, Turn Off the Noise, about boredom, you know, and being bored, but just being quiet. But I'll let Caitlin, you had something to say.
You're fine. I was just going to say, God has more people following him than we realize. I think sometimes we're used to hearing all the bad, and it's just kind of what we focus on. But and the remnant may not be like it may not be huge, but it's powerful. When you have God on your side, it's powerful. And just knowing, like Cleopatra was saying, when you have that foundation and when you know that you can come back to that solid foundation, it's a comfort, and I think it's strength, and it's protection. Just I can't remember what it's a psalm, but he that abides under the shadow of the Almighty, or something like that. It says some that's Caitlin version, but I just think it's important to know that we can abide under his wings, under his shadow, and know that we're protected, being the remnant. And people can look at it like not very positive, but I look at it as like that's my security, that's my foundation, that's everything to me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I feel like, you know, you have the masses, like the convenient Christians, you know, like these days that, you know, I'm Christian and I go to church, but I, you know, scroll on TikTok endlessly, and the list could go on. But I feel like I just lost my train of thought, kind of. But just what I was trying to say is, yeah, I think I lost it. I lost it.
When it comes back to you, bring
That's
it
good.
back.
I was building it for how long, and it's just gone.
I know. Sometimes just butt in if you got it. So, you know, going off of C.S. Lewis, you know, purity, innocence, fun. Cleopatra was talking about the body is the temple. And, you know, you can actually have loads of fun. That's just, and actually I wanted to have a topic. I mentioned it to him, a good old belly laugh. I wanted to have a video on, because it's like, how many times do you just laugh so hard innocently, nobody, just being silly and goofy, and just have, it's healthy, but not at the expense of somebody else. Mm-hmm. Not at the expense of somebody else. But it's just pure innocent, just goofy, silly, you know, it's like, and not because you see anything on social media or this or that, just having simple fun.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to kind of pick up with what you were starting to say. Maybe it'll jog your memory. But when people, Mom and I have talked about, you see people wearing, I mean, men and women actually wearing, you know, cross necklaces or whatever. And I don't think that's a bad thing. But I think that the people who are truly doing it because they're following God, it's hard because there's people who are not truly following God that wear those as a symbol of something that they're not actually. Right. And so I feel like it's a very hard, this is just one example. Of course, there are many examples, but we've talked about this before. And it's like, oh, I don't know what the term is. I know we've come up with a term, but it's like Isaiah said, it's convenient. It's like when I want to put on this show because I'm around certain people or because it would be popular around certain people or whatever, well, then I can put that show on. But all the other times, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to follow God. I'm not going to listen to what he wants me to do for my life. And so I think it's not just when you're around certain people. It's every single moment of every single day that you should be living that. And like I said earlier, it won't make you loved by the world, it'll make you loved by God, and that should be what you're striving for. And so I don't know, Isaiah, if that is what you were kind of meaning, but I guess that kind of came to me.
Yeah, and I feel like somewhere I was also trying to go is, finding purpose and feeling fulfilled following God. We're not doing this for a dopamine hit. We're not doing this, it's not a coping mechanism. It's like you were saying, Caitlin, it's safety, it's protection, it's security. When you can immerse yourself in the Word, have quiet time, talk with God, there's just a feeling in your heart, in your soul, in your heart that is unlike anything else you're going to find in the world. All right, Clem.
And I think that, sorry.
No, you're good. I was just gonna. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're fine. Go ahead.
I just have like one little sentence, but like when you're doing that, you're following how God has designed you, what God has designed you for, because we tend to stray from that. This is a couple sentences instead.
Fine.
But like following His exact design for you when you are choosing to be that remnant, when you are choosing to be different from the rest of the world, you're choosing His good design, and knowing that gives you a sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I was gonna say, oh no. Oh, I remember it is that it's going to be that comfort and that foundation, but it's always also, and we talk about this in our other videos too, when you get quiet and you allow God to speak to you, things might come up that are uncomfortable, or God might ask you to change certain things. So it's like, you have to realize that it doesn't make it, like I said earlier, it's not that it makes it everything easy. It makes it easier because you have this foundation and this protection. But God is going to constantly be evolving you and changing you and shaping you to be even more of like a representative in being made in His image. And so when people say, oh, you have it so easy because, A, B, C, D, E, whatever, it's not that. And it's that it takes work to follow God too. It's a commitment, but it's like when you do that, you're constantly trying to be a better person. And so I think that's kind of what it boils down to, is it's not that any of us are perfect, or even that we're going to be perfect in any way simply by choosing to follow God. It's that we're willing to admit when we're wrong. We're willing to admit when we've made mistakes, but we're also willing to change from those. And that's a huge part of it too. We can't just say one thing and then not do something about it, and so it just kind of made me think of it when we were talking about that.
It's part of our ABC that we talk about: be aware and admit, and then our beliefs and behaviors, and then we've got to change them. And it also talks about, like Isaiah mentioned, faith without action, works or deeds, is empty, is noise. And it's peaceful, it's quiet when it's not a roller coaster. It doesn't mean that we don't have situations or whatever it may be to deal with, but I guess it comes down to habits too. Habits, patterns. Isaiah was talking about coping mechanisms, survival techniques, what we've learned, been conditioned and programmed to. How much of it is unconscious? 95% of it is unconscious in our body and our life. And so we're on autopilot. And if we're sleepwalking, we tend to just end up on a path and go, how did I get here? And God will guide us back to His path, the highway, not the low way. And that is, it's a different life. It really is. And I would say, being the remnant, we actually all are, but it's if we do our part. Anybody, it's God loves everybody. God really does. And God is in all of us. And we really need to be able to remind each other of being the remnant. That's our job, is also for us to each remind each other and work together and join together, because we all get on our paths, on our days, and we make choices and we go, how did I get here? That's when we have to take our responsibility. That's when we have to repent, do the ABC, but we need help too. They can't do it for us, but we need to support each other.
I cannot remember. There was a verse. I think you've read it off in our other video. I don't think it was this one. I could be wrong. But it's, if we're not firm in our faith, and I'm paraphrasing here because I'm trying to remember what it was. If we're not firm in our faith, God can't make us stand firm. So God
That's
is always
Isaiah 7:9. Or 7:9.
Okay. I knew you read it, but I couldn't remember which one you read it in. But God is always there. He, like you said, he loves everybody, but we have to do our part. He is not going to force us, and we've talked about this in other videos. He will never force us to do anything. We have the choice, but we have to make the choice to follow him and to be the remnant. And so it doesn't just happen on its own. It takes actively choosing that every single day, but also every single moment of the day.
And I would say, oh boy. Oh, I know what I was going to say is, God just gets louder though. It gets louder, and then we tend to listen more and more until it's like crash, boom, bang, and it's like, oh, God was trying to get my attention all the time. You know, God can foresee things that we can't. God sees it all. So, you know, why not go to God? Always consult God. We talk about that, Joshua 9:14. Let's, you know, but it's a habit we have to build and remind each other. Remind each other who we are. We forget, and that sounds so ridiculous that we forget who we are, who God made us to be, but we forget, and then we make choices that with consequences.
Well, I think that's something we can talk about another time, but consequences, we have talked about it before. I think it could be a whole video. The idea is that there's no consequences in our world today, and that's not true. There's natural consequences. There's also physical consequences depending where you live. Natural consequences can be physical consequences, but I'm just saying, like, that there's consequences that are natural, and then there's consequences because of laws and such. But people have, and we do talk about shame, we talk about guilt. I would encourage you to go watch those videos. But people, their responsibility for their actions. And so when there is not any responsibility for our actions, you just keep doing it and you keep doing it and you get farther and farther. And like Mom said, you stop and you're like, what have I done? And so I think it's a matter of that we do need to take responsibility for them. We do need to stand up and encourage others to take responsibility for their actions, our family members, our friends, whatever it is. And that's how you're going to start being the remnant. That's how you're going to encourage the ones around you to be the remnant. That's what it is every day. It's remembering who you're made to be. It's remembering who made you, that we're created in God's image. And then taking that and living that out every day of our life.
Be bold in your faith. Shine as a light in darkness. I think that's very important.
And we did talk about one of our other videos about being fully accountable and responsible. And we talk about how family members, it seems like parents and children and parents. I'm not sure what video, if that is free will or responsibility. I'm not sure which one it was. That parents need to hold children responsible, and children need to hold parents responsible, and spouses and all that kind of stuff. And it just seems like it just does not happen in this day and age. And I think it could be around from the beginning of time with Adam and Eve, you know. But the thing is, we need to. And so like we could continue talking on that. But I think something with everybody have a takeaway. Anybody have a takeaway for today for somebody to take action on, or about being the remnant?
Well, I think I just happened to look down at this verse because I have my Bible in front of me. It is Isaiah 5, 5 actually. So if you want to look it up, it says he will be the source of peace. And so I think that just being the remnant, what we were talking about is that following God and trusting him and asking him to guide you for everything that you're supposed to do in your life. He will be the source of peace. He'll be stability and a foundation to build your life upon, not a shaky foundation, but a firm one. And so I guess my takeaway is that when you're being the remnant, remember that God is behind you. And like Caitlin said earlier in this video, if God is behind you, then I mean, that's the greatest strength that you could ever have. So I guess mine would just be a reminder to be the remnant, as this video is, and then to remember that then God can be your source of peace that can flow into everything you do.
I would say my takeaway would be it's a choice to join the remnant, to be in the remnant, to live in it, with it. You have to choose to change. I believe we have a piece of apparel with that on it. But just make the choice, start, read the word, talk with fellow believers, and just make the choice each and every day to take one step forward and choose to change and move down the road less traveled. And in the end, you will not regret it. You will grow stronger in your faith, in your freedom.
Well, and I think to go off of that choice, reward follows that choice, not just reward here on earth, but eternal reward. And knowing that you're working towards that, or building God's kingdom, staying rooted in prayer and in scripture, choosing obedience over maybe convenience, staying faithful because God rewards that faithfulness. Like we said, being a Christian sometimes may not have easy moments. It may have, discouraging moments, but knowing that you can go to God and be faithful, and knowing that you can go to him and be encouraged to continue to be faithful.
And I would build on something that Caitlin had said earlier, is about with remnants, it's particles, it's bits, it's pieces. That's what a remnant is. But you put those pieces and you put those remnants together, and they make up the whole. And so she mentioned that, it seems like it gets put out there that there aren't that many remnants, but there really are. Everybody is out there. We have to work together. And we mentioned in Turn Off the Noise today, when you're standing in line somewhere or you're waiting for something, turn off your technology, turn off the noise, and just smile at somebody, say hi to somebody. You never know who you can touch and who can touch you and who you may meet. And it may be a one time only, or maybe you'll get to know each other.
Well, I think
but just be the light. Caitlin mentioned that.
Really quick, I think that just even a smile in someone's direction, like you mentioned, you might not know how that impacts their day, the people around them, but it will. And that's a very simple, it seems like it might not be much, but that's a way to be the remnant. You are being the remnant if you're just willing to shine that light, the light of God around you. And I feel like that's a very simplest way that you are being the remnant, is just allowing that light to shine through you. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I thought of that.
Oh, no, it's good. And I would just suggest, there's so much pain and hurt going on with so many people, especially right now. But, no matter who it is, we can talk right, left, Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal. We can talk Jew, non-Jew. We can go on down the list. Male, female, young, old. I mean, it just different cultures, different races. everybody has what they're experiencing, and we need to take the quiet time and just step away. And I was going to mention, we did it in our video this morning. I meant to do it in the beginning, but we started right away, is maybe we just take a moment of silence right now, for the sake of what did happen with Charlie Kirk and all of his family, and even who is all involved with that. And then also for 9/11, for everyone there, that maybe we can just take a moment of silence and well, I'm thankful for each of you, and I'm thankful for Caitlin, Cleopatra, and Isaiah joining today. This is not necessarily an easy topic, be the remnant. And we would like you to know that no one or no family shall do life alone, so please do reach out, connect with us. We have a lot of resources, and we're here for you, and we appreciate you, and we are thankful for you. And until we connect next time, take care.